So excited that you are here tonight with us. And again, thanks for your patience as we got a correct link situated there to go through. So tell you what, to get started, if we could do the following is basically, first of all, in your chat, see if you can find your chat box and make sure that when you're chatting tonight, you can set the link to everyone. So if you can go to your chat box in Zoom, set the chat feature to everyone. And then if you can type in your preferred first name, current role in education, and one thing you enjoy about teaching can be in one post. For example, Adam, I'm currently actually a college methods instructor. And then one thing I enjoy about teaching is just when student ideas shine. And I love seeing creativity come out of students' brains with awesome ideas. This gets me so excited. So for you all, yeah, if you can in the chat, tell us your first name, kind of what your role is in education, or where what your job is, or and then one thing you enjoy about teaching. So thank you, Amanda, for getting us started off there. So Amanda, an agency consultant, and those aha moments, yes, that we love. And welcome, Brandy. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Mariana. First grade teacher, love it, and love seeing it all come together in March. That's good, Mariana. I like that too, but especially those young learners. Wow, the difference in your first graders, right, from August to March. I bet you see by such huge changes by the end that you got to be patient in the beginning months, right, Mariana? And then by the end, it kind of starts coming together, and those they start blossoming there. I bet that's awesome. Hi, Maria. Hi, Kafia. And if I say anyone's name wrong, I apologize. But yeah, I see middle school math teacher, excited students to know more about things. Yeah, Alicia, welcome. Helping students learn new skills. Helping students love math. Yeah, it's awesome when people who come in any subject area are like, I don't know about this. And by then they're like, you know what? This is okay. This is kind of neat. I like this. So that's great. Welcome, Robin. Welcome, Carolina. So those of you who are jumping in here, we're just making sure, giving everyone a chance to make sure they're in. And then we are just saying our first name, current role in education, and one thing you enjoy about teaching. So Carolina, sixth grade math, science teacher, oh, math and science. And when students gain confidence in their learning, I agree, Carolina, and that's one thing we aim to do here at Amplify is just to allow students have some experience where they get to take some control of their learning too with these powerful tools to see what makes sense to them, to put things in their own words, to have those aha moments and gain confidence as they make sense of their learning. So tonight, that's some of our goals to go through. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and basically uh, tonight do a kind of an activity together and learn about Amplify Classroom tonight. And I'll be giving more about the goals in a second. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and set our links so Scott, so that people can enter it. Let me just change this here. I'm going to go ahead and add the pacing to screens 2, 3, and 4. And Scott, if you can put the join link back in, I'll explain to people what they can do here. So basically, Scott Miller, who's a good colleague of mine and another someone who is behind the scenes with Amplify like myself, is going to be on the chat tonight. He just put a link into the chat that goes to our activity. And when you click on that link, it's going to ask you if you want to just join without signing in, which is totally fine for tonight. If you do have an Amplify account, you can sign in with that. You can also create one, which is free for teachers. You can create a free account through using Google is a good way to do that. And so I see people already jumping in the activity. But again, use that link in the chat from Scott Miller. And yeah, again, feel free to when it asks you to join in, you can continue without signing in for now, totally fine, or use an existing account or create one right now if you'd like. And once you get in, there's a couple screens to fill out. So there's in the top right, there should be kind of an arrow to move to the next screen. And as you move to screens 2, 3, and 4, there's just a couple questions for you to get going. So yeah, so you in the top right, use that arrow and advance yourself to screen 2, screen 3, screen 4, and you can focus on your screen for now. You don't need to be looking at mine. Once you're in, it's just a few screens that say something about how you're doing today, about where you are in the world, and a little bit of your familiarity with Amplify Classroom. And so once we get everybody in, that'd be great. So I see, like right now as a teacher, I can see that we have it looks like we are we're getting up into the teens here, and I think we're aiming for around 27 of you. I encourage everyone should go ahead and join that link Scott put there because you're going to want to be there because that's how you're going to experience some slides tonight and do some learning on your own. So Scott, can you add that link one more time in there for just people? Just make sure you click on that link. And if you have questions, if you're confused about something about how to log in, you can ask in the chat. Scott or I can answer your questions. So I see a lot of you are answering those first screens there as you go through. So awesome. So I'm gonna give you another minute or so to basically get through those first four slides and just tell us a bit about yourself. And then we're gonna jump right in. So while you're doing that, I always like to just take a moment and say thank you to everyone here in whatever role you're in education. We're so glad that yeah, that you're the kind of educator that wants to keep learning and growing. And so we're hopefully tonight we can do some of that together and show some of the free, amazing tools the Amplify Classroom offers for you, students, or for whatever role you are in. Awesome. So I see we've got, yeah, I've got many people working through there. 9 of you have gotten all the way through. And again, some of you who are on that first slide, remember in the top right, there's an arrow. And so you can move yourself to screen 2 and screen 3 and screen 4. And it just, there's some screens there to answer a few questions along the way. All right. Very cool. Very cool. Now, one thing tonight, while people are finishing that up, about ready to officially kick off, is that I know on a webinar it's always a little tricky to feel like who should I watch? Should I be on his screen or my screen? Ideally, if you have two screens, like if you're able to do that, that's the best case scenario. If not, I'll try and guide you. So you should have one window, one tab that has your work as a student, another one that has my Zoom, and I'll guide you where to look at when. So right now you can be on your screen working through to go through. But all right. So great though. But let's go ahead and 609. I know we're so let's go ahead and at this point, once you come back to my screen, so come back to my tab, and I'm actually going to press the pause button for a second. For those of you who are on your own screens, it's actually going to pause your screen so that you can't work anymore. It's okay if you didn't finish. Come back to mine, and yeah, let's just take a look at this data together. And I'm going to talk, what I'm looking at now is called the teacher dashboard. Every lesson activity with Amplify, the teacher has this dashboard to control the lesson. And I'm going to teach you more later about it, but let's just take a look at some of your data. I'm going to click on screen 2. I'm going to go to the teacher tab to see some teacher things here. And first, I want to look at the overlay here as people are feeling today. And by and far, most of you are on the right side of that number line, which is good to see. And some of you are saying it's a Monday. Good, feeling good. Well, good. Now, because your names are here, I'm going to show you another quick thing I'm going to do as a teacher. I'm going to hit the anonymize button in the top left. And what that's going to do is basically change your name to the name of a famous mathematician. And on your screen in the top left, it'll show who you are. And this way we have a little anonymity as we look at each other's answers here. All right, on screen 3, I'm going to hit the overlay button. And again, kind of fun to see where we're at today to look at here. And it looks like we are scattered across mostly the West Coast and some East and Southern of United States. But we've got someone over here from Australia. That's awesome. In the chat, where are you at in Australia? What city are you in Australia? We'd love to know in the chat, where you're coming from there. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And and then the last one on screen 4, we can take a look at just again the quick data that the dashboard offers us about where we're at. And so this is good. Again, a lot of you are A and B, meaning you're fairly new or only use the calculators. And that's where you should be. This is a good beginner's workshop to look at Amplify Classroom. And some of you have a little more. We're going to learn some new things as well. So welcome, everyone. Welcome. Melbourne, awesome. Well, welcome, Pam. So excited you're from Melbourne and are here today. All right, so be looking at my screen for a second. Let's talk about the goals for today's session. All right, so let me go ahead and hit full screen here so we can take a look at this together. All right, one second. I'm gonna go back to my student tab and go big here. So as you're looking at my screen, let me just say a couple things about today's webinar. First of all, this is put on by Amplify Classroom. And to clear up any confusion, this summer, some of you may have heard about Desmos Classroom, which was the name for what we're looking at today for a long time. And Amplify, a really big company, and Desmos, a smaller company, joined forces to bring two really good things together. And with that, are expanding the audience. And we do go ahead and by the name Amplify Classroom now. So if you were curious, Desmos Classroom is now Amplify Classroom. And on this free stuff we're going to look at today, there are loads of free class classroom activities across K-12, across math, literacy, science. Desmos was original audience was more mathematics, but now it's opened up to literacy, science, mathematics, really everything. There's a free lesson building tool. So yes, there's pre-made activities, but also you can build your own. And there's a whole nother webinar about that. There's free manipulatives, free fact fluency cards, and not free, but interesting to know about is there are full curricula through Amplify. There is now growing from K through Algebra 2, Amplify Desmos math curricula, Amplify science, literacy. So things you could think about in the future. Those are obviously not free, but things to think about. So tonight in our agenda, here is what we're going to be doing. So first, we need to experience this as a student. So I'm going to be a teacher, put you in the student's shoes for a little bit and experience some slides as a student as we just talk through that. Then we'll learn from a teacher side and learn a little more about the dashboard and how to run these activities, how to find it and run it with your students and what that looks like. We're going to look at the updated Amplify Classroom homepage because it looks a little different if you were with the Desmos Classroom before and just help navigate that. We're going to talk about how to find an activity for your class, how to assign it to your students, and let's talk about other ways to keep learning and growing. Lots of resources out there. Now, as far as questions and answers, I mentioned Scott Miller is behind the scene on the chat. He's monitoring it. So anytime you have questions, throw it in there, and he is right there. So don't be bashful about that, and he or I will answer it. But he's looking at it all the time. So keep those questions coming. Tonight, what we're not going to do, just to be clear, is we're not going to be looking at how to create your own activities tonight. That is a different webinar that we'll show you how to sign up for, which involves some of the coding behind the scenes, computation layer, different webinar. And also we have a webinar for the Polypad virtual manipulatives, different webinar, but we'll show you how to sign up for those as well. So what we are going to do tonight is we are going to experience some Amplify classroom lessons and then think about it from a teacher's side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everybody to my screen on screen 8. And I'm going to do that by pressing sync to me, and I'll teach you more about this later, bring everyone to screen 8. And we're going to experience a taste of a few different lessons here. I'm going to unpause you. And basically, on screen 8, we're going to look at a few slides in a moment here about something called Make a Cat or a Dapper Cat. This comes from an 8th grade math lesson where we're looking at linear relationships. And it's kind of a fun context here. If you're still looking at my screen, you can take a look. What we're looking at here is basically we have something called a Dapper Cat in these boxes. And Dapper Cats are things they sell that kind of have a certain look to them. And no matter how big the cat is or how small the cat is, they have this certain look to them. And, so we want to keep that look to be a Dapper Cat. So what you're going to do in a second is you're going to go onto your screen and you can control, thinking about the size of the bow tie and think about what would make a Dapper Cat. Where should the bow tie be to be a Dapper Cat? When you think it's in the right place, you can hit try it and see if you have a Dapper Cat or not. And get some right, get some wrong, move that dot back and forth, try several things. And so right now that's what I want you to do. So make sure you go to your own screen, look at your own, the activity here on your own. And where do you think that data point should be, that dot should be, as you look at how it changes the bow tie? Where should we want it to be a Dapper Cat, to maintain that Dapper Cat look that we go through. So take a moment on your own screen and just experience a taste of a lesson here that we can see that students are looking at how this point changes the bow tie and thinking about some relationships behind the scenes. So let's give that a shot here. Give that a shot. And it looks like, which is great. I see a lot of you are on screen 8, so keep doing your thing. And as a teacher, I always tell students, get some right and get some wrong. Where would the bow tie be to not be a Dapper Cat? Is there, play around a bit and kind of take a look where it would be and where it wouldn't be to be a Dapper Cat along the way. So awesome. So I see a lot of good Dapper Cats being made out there. Very good. Very good. All right, so we're getting the idea that there's a certain look to a Dapper Cat here. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to go ahead and allow us to move forward a few screens. I have about 4 screens from this activity, and I'm going to use something called pace, and I'm going to allow you to move from 8 through 11. So in the top right of your screen, basically there's arrows again, and you should be able to move yourself now to screen 9. So I see good, and I can see you all moving over there, which is good, and I'll show more of that later, but good. So move yourself to screen 9, and on screen 9, it's going to ask you to take a look, and on screen 9 to describe a sentence. It says the scatter plot shows many Dapper Cat orders. Describe what you notice about the scatter plot. So maybe say something you noticed there. Just in the last screen, we saw students could examine, relationship of how data could change, moving a dot back and forth. So this one, I just could type something in. Don't worry about being totally right or anything. Just notice something. You can type it in. And once you type something in, we're just getting a taste of these activities. So you can go to screen 10, when you're ready there. And basically, we're just getting a little taste. We're going to talk about it, but I just want you to taste some different kinds of screens. So in screen 9, students can type in an answer there. All right. And then on screen 10, it gives students a command. You can be on your screen trying it. Right now, you can be on your screen trying it. I'm just talking to keep some good voiceover going, but feel free to be on your screen and trying these screens, and I'll have you join me in a second. So you're doing great. So like just for example, a lot of you are on screen 10 right now, I noticed. On screen 10, it gives students a direction. Drag the point to represent a dapper cat that is taller than any of the other cats in the scatter plot, and then to try it. But it has to be a dapper cat, so it's got to have that certain look to it. Can't be any cat. It's got to be that dapper cat, to go through. So you could try that. And then the fourth screen, screen 11 in this activity, a lot of you are now moving to screen 11, I see, says not a dapper cat. And it gives it a different specific direction. Drag the movable point to represent a not dapper cat that is very short with a very large bow tie. So where might that cat be on the graph? You can try that out. Now, if you notice, this one doesn't have a try it button. At first, which is okay. As we move it, though, we can kind of visualize the cat as we change it to see what's happening. So we get some live responsive feedback to what we're doing here. So a lot of you guys see are 12 of you are on screen 11, which is great. And it's interesting. This is kind of the thing we like about the Amplify classroom tools is this responsive feedback that it's not about just right or wrong, but students can kind of see what does it mean if I move this dot further to the right or further up along the X or Y axis here. And again, this is an 8th grade lesson looking at linear relationships. Okay, but you get the idea here. You get the idea. That's great. I'm going to press pause again, which is one powerful tool. So I invite you now to come back to my screens for a second. So you kind of tasted from a student side, just some sample screens to go through. But teachers have a lot of tools on their side too. So I thought I'd look at a couple with you, a couple just to highlight a few things as we go through. So you can be looking at my screen now. So back on my Zoom screen that I am sharing. I just want to share a couple quick things. For example, on screen 9, I asked you to type in some things you noticed. I'm going to go to my teacher tab, more on this later, and show you what teachers see. And for example, here, I can see that some of the students were writing some nice things to think about. And so an interesting thing here to show is that if I wanted to have some conversation around what students did, I might be able to click maybe a couple that I want to highlight. For example, I could click these two, and when I do, something magical happens. In the right, they kind of get sorted to the right, and then I see this button that says present two snapshots. So I can click up to 4 things at once, and when I present it, it's nice. It comes right to the class. I can add a question if I want, but here we could maybe compare and contrast these two. We could talk to students about something that each of them say that's interesting, that's right, that brings something to the conversation. And so this is called taking a snapshot. And taking a snapshot is a nice way to highlight student voice, bring it to the forefront, and yeah, have some conversation. All right, as you're looking at my screen, I'm gonna go to screen 9 for a second, which was again I'm on the students tab now to show what students would see. This was this screen. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go to screen 10, which was this one. And I want to show as well that when I'm looking at this here, just some things to note in a lesson. You may have noticed on my screen, there's 2 tabs that are only on mine, they weren't on yours, but there's a teacher moves button that kind of talks about some things I might ask students on the screen, some things to think about, as well as some sample responses that I might think about that it gives me as a teacher some things that could help me plan my lesson or think about what choice I might make. So it's just nice that these activities have built-in teacher moves and sample responses here on the bottom. Again, on this one, it's kind of interesting. I can take a look at some different types of cats you made and see that here to go through. And lastly, on screen 11, just want to show that just for example, you all were looking for dapper cats, and when we looked at it, it's interesting that most of you were choosing dapper cats that were down here. We can take a look at this, and just as a teacher, it's interesting to look at the tools to use student data to consider what what we see, what pattern, why are these the right answers, or which ones were the right answers? And we can talk about it here. So I'm just highlighting some things we'll talk about more later, but you got to experience a few screens, and I'm just showing you some dashboard tools here to feature. Okay, well, while you're on my screen, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the next two things. Now, as I said, the nice thing about Amplify Classroom is it's not just math anymore. There are lessons for literacy, science, and literacy includes some social studies lessons and things we're continuing to make. So I want to take a look here, for example, on screens 12 and 13. And this you can just do with me. But from my dashboard, this I would teach from my dashboard, just like I'm showing you now, and I can make it full screen. And basically, this is a kindergarten lesson that comes from a literacy lesson for kindergarten about switching beginning sounds. And it's something where a teacher could do with the whole class or to have individual students try it on their screens and come together. But for example, just to show just little different things here, like in this one, for example, this is we're having the teacher talk with the students what they notice in this picture, if they know what this picture represents, about tents, maybe camping, and thinking about how we can change one word to another by changing this first letter here. And so just talking through with students, maybe giving them a chance, if that's the goal, is we can decide what letter would make lamp into camp and think about things, and we get a little green pop there to get some things correct there, just to think about. So this is very simple, but just showing how you can go from eighth grade algebra down to kindergarten literacy. And so here's the same kind of thing. How can we turn, again, we could talk about what is this a picture of, share about if we've seen these before or not. Maybe get the idea it's a vest. It's a type of swimming vest. And together think about turning nest into vest and what that might entail. So let me do that here real quick. So again, if you watch close to, again, a little feedback as we do that. If I put in the wrong word, a little red comes up there. If I bring in the V, we get a nice little green pop there coming through. So just example, trying to give you a little taste of some things of some lessons here. Well, let's get you back involved for a second. So on the next screens, I'm going to have you try it. I'm going to pace us only to screens 14 and 15. And pace is a nice tool that allows me to kind of allow which screens let my students see. And this is from a fourth grade science lesson. And I'm going to unpause you. And so for a second, for right now, you can choose to go back to your screens. So go back to what you were looking at for a second. And on your screens, you can just take a look at. Now, this is hard because you're jumping in the middle of a science lesson. So just know, obviously, these are just two screens inserted in the middle. And in these lessons, kids were exploring the idea of why are there seasons on Earth? What causes seasons on Earth? And as they're answering that question, there are some interactive demonstrations around this idea. So for example, on screen 14, which most of you are on, it says, as you move the Earth in its orbit around the sun, notice the changes that happen to the globe on the right. So as you can basically use your cursor, and you can individually, on the left side, you can click the Earth and drag it around to change the date of the year, like where it is a certain point in the year. And then on the right side, we're looking at kind of just what the tilt of the Earth looks like as we drag it around. So we're seeing how the sun is shining on the Earth in different ways, with the tilt. And again, this is part of a bigger lesson, so I'm not going to go into the science right here, but you know, with the teacher and the class, imagine the conversations we can start having. What do we notice here? What are the patterns we see? Where is it winter? Where is it summer? Let's try and move the Earth to where it's summer in the northern hemisphere, where it's winter. What stays the same? What changes? And so these powerful representations allow us to get some good ideas. And then on screen 15, if you go to the next one, if you haven't yet, just showing you some different student tools. Like here's a drawing tool. And so it's asking students, does the tilt of the Earth change as it orbits the sun? And basically, for the last screen, I know we did it fast, but we would kind of see it doesn't. It's always tilting to the right. That never changed. It always has this little tilt to the right. It's actually like, I forget, 23 degrees or something, but tilt to right there. And as it was rotating around the sun, that tilt never changed. And so students can kind of draw, and they can go back to the other screen and draw the tilt that they saw. And these are just tools to help us, again, engage in some representation, some wondering, some good discussion as a class, drawing what we think we see. And so it's just the idea that things like science, this is just a sample fourth grade lesson, some nice things to think about. All right, so kind of cool there to go through. So let's experience one more here from a student's perspective, and then we're gonna start talking the teacher side. So again, our goal right now is just to get a little taste of some different kinds of screens and different content areas. So I'm gonna expand it so you have access to screen 16. In fact, I'm just gonna move everyone to screen 16 for a second. I'm gonna paste everyone to 16 and well, I'm gonna sync you over there. Actually, there we go. And sync you over there. So I moved everyone over there. And we're going to jump into a seventh grade math lesson now. So we are just getting dizzy here. This is a seventh grade math lesson called Scaling Machines. And this is where students are developing an understanding of scaled copies, kind of dilations a little bit, some different types of transformations here. And on screen 16, students get to choose a shape that they are going to be playing with in their copy machine. So for right now, can you do that? On your screen, you can adjust the dots, the vertices of this shape, and you can make something you think is kind of fun, whatever you want. But this is going to be your shape. So in the following screens, the activity is going to, how you experience it will depend on the shape you make. So so take a moment here. We're not paused, are we? Oops, Scott, were we paused? I think we might have been. Wait,
You were paused, but you've unpaused now.
I've
So
unpaused. Okay, sorry about that. So basically, yeah, thanks, Scott. So at slide 16, so now you're unpaused. If you can go ahead and basically control your vertices to create a cool shape, whatever you want that you're going to be using to scale and bring up and down here. All right. So, and again, this is just an example of a seventh grade math lesson that we're looking at here. So, awesome. So I'm going to choose mine a little bit. I'm going to make something kind of fun myself. All right. So I'm going to go with, I want something that looks like a bat. Oh, I've kind of got a bat. Kind of. Well, sort of. Anyway, we'll see what you all chose here going through. Kind of a bat, kind of not. Kind of. All right. Well, let's see what you all did. But all right, so basically, and right now I have you all set. You can't move off of slide 16. But I'm gonna change it so we can. I'm going to paste it so that we can basically move to screen 17. And if you look at my screen for a second, um, oh, I'm actually going to pause you because I wanted to show you something. So as students, I could say, hey, everyone, I'm going to pause your screen. Why don't you come to my screen? So I want to demonstrate something really quickly. So again, if you look at my screen again, I'm in the student tab, which is what students would see. I was as a teacher. This is where I teach a lesson from. Like I'm showing you now. This is what I have in my classroom. I go to the student tab. I can go full screen and I could demonstrate. So here was the shape I picked. You're going to see your shape there, but we're going to be kind of copying it and deciding to blow it up or shrink it down by zooming in. And the way you can zoom is by changing the plus and minus buttons on this copy machine. So for example, if I put it on the lowest setting and press print, I see what happens. Ooh, interesting. Then I can press reset and I can choose different large things and press print and ooh, it blew it up. I want you to try things at each of those zoom levels and answer the questions. No matter what zoom level, what stays the same and what changes in your picture? So I'm going to unpause you and I want you to play with screen 17 for a second. So right now, everyone should be able to move to screen 17 on your own. So head to screen 17. Uh, you see your picture there that you chose. And I want you to, yeah, play with the zoom on the copy machine and zoom it up, press print, see what comes out. Zoom it, and you got to reset. You can reset the machine, zoom it down, press print, see what comes out. And a good activity always, I believe, is driven with good questions. And so I love the question on this for students to think about. What things stay as you zoom in and out, no matter what, how big or how small, what things stay the same and what changes? Great question. Love that. So that's what I want you to be thinking about right now as you zoom in and out and you can think about what students would say or even what you would say as you think about it. What do we see here? So doing great, doing great. And this is our last sample activity, by the way. We have a few more screens, and then we're gonna put on our teacher hat and get a chance to think about, how as teachers, how you get started a little bit. But it's important to get a taste from a student's perspective. And so again, this is, I think, a fourth lesson. We're just tasting what student screens kind of feel like. And we're also learning, which is important, is that Amplify classroom lessons are not meant to be a give it to students and then step back and let them just do 20 screens on their own while teachers don't do anything. It's meant to be very interactive. So we use these tools like pacing, like snapshots to actually guide students through a lesson with times of them exploring, times of us talking, making conclusions, using their answers. So Amplify classroom lessons are really meant to be very engaging. It's very much meant to be a discourse heavy classroom where these representations and ideas help us have good discussions, not like have this quiet classroom. Which is why often I like to pair two students up with one computer in the right activities, and just so that I have two students on one computer, which forces them to talk more. So then as we also come as a whole class, I get to use their ideas more and more. But anyway, good. So I see people playing around here, yeah, which is great. And then some of you are looking at screen 18, which is neat as well. And just the idea of trying to think about how we summarize what we've learned. So it's a good example as a class or as students having them think about what a scaled copy is and isn't, and then as a class we can come together and look at these responses. So if you look at my screen again for a second, invite you back to my screen. I just want to show the teacher tools again, which is kind of fun. So for example, if I want to see if I want to see things a teacher wants to see, I go to the teacher tab, and teachers want to see student answers. So again, this is where I can see student answers here, and this is where again, if I want, I can pull some things that I've noticed. Nicole is saying, this is mathematician names, is that angles stay the same, side lengths differ, and Grace Hopper is saying something else. I could bring these up and we could talk about these and go back to the other screen if we want. This is called the snapshot tool again to look at. And this is just nice to see the way we can use some student work here. And lastly, I'm going to bring everyone to screen 19. This is one more. I'm going to paste everyone to screen 19. Sorry, sync to me. I synced you to screen 19, which means I'm pulling all my students that are logged in to screen 19. And screen 19 is a card sort. And so just for a second, why don't you try this for a second? This is our last one as a student, but this is where the goal is, to basically we're trying to sort these cards into a scaled copy and not a scaled copy. And so, kind of an assessment, also a great conversation. So, we love these kind of things that can allow us to see students thinking as far as what's not a scaled copy, what is a scaled copy, to go through. And again, often I give students a little time to try it on their own or with a partner or shoulder partner, and then we can come together and see if we agree and talk about, what things are and what things aren't. But this is a nice example of a card sort. And again, if this is your first time doing a card sort, I might demonstrate for students with the pause button on that you can always pull the cards sideways to like unlink them. And you do need to drag one on top of the other to link them. So you kind of put one on top of the other. So usually the first time through, I'll demonstrate just for students a little how to, and then they get it very easily. But there we go. Okay. We have now tasted 4 different lessons across. So at this point, I'm going to pause your screens because I want everyone to come back to mine because let's talk through a little more of just what we're looking at from a teacher standpoint. And while we're doing this, remember, Scott is in the chat. Ask any questions you want in the chat, fire away. But so first of all, looking at my screen, I want to show some very important things. All right. So first of all, I want to take a look at some of the things I am seeing here. Again, this is called the teacher dashboard. Every lesson that you run with your students, this is where you run it from and where you teach it from the teacher dashboard. First of all, I'm looking at what's called the summary page, which is a very helpful place to start. The summary page tells me on the left side, it's the students' names, and then in the middle, I'll tell you about this, but we see lots of things happening on the different screens. I'm going to start though in the top left. In the top left, there are these 4 amazing buttons. And the one I started with today was the anonymize button. And this is the one that allows me to take your real names. And when I click it, it turns your real names into famous mathematicians, a very cool, diverse list that's from all different times and places and contributions, which is awesome. And when you anonymize it, it just allows for safe discussion with students in front of the room. So if someone has something wrong, it's a safe environment to talk about wrong answers, to learn from them without having to have their names attached if we want. Also, if you hover over the names, it does tell you as a teacher, like in the anonymized mode, I can quickly see who is who. Even if I go to the 3 dot menu next to it, I can even see what email they're logged in at, and things like that. So when you're anonymized, you still have a way to quickly know who is who. The next button I want to show as a teacher is when you're running a lesson is this paste button. The paste button is what I mentioned a few times of how to be able to, maybe I only want students to do the scaling machine slides. That was 16 to 19. So I'm gonna do that again real quick, but watch this. All I did is I hit pace, I hit slide 16 is where it started, it's where I wanted to end 19. And if you notice, there's now this orange box around it. This means that students can move themselves freely between 16 and 19, and go back and forth, but they can't move beyond or before those screens. So it helps keep everyone a little bit more together. And once it's there, I can edit it. I can use the plus sign to add a screen on, or I can just stop pasting completely. I can always go back and press it again and choose a couple screens, and basically it just allows me to control that. I really like this plus button, by the way, because it allows me to just add things on as I'm going through a lesson. But so the pace is very powerful, again, to help students be contained. Another powerful button that I modeled tonight a bit is the sync to me, a newer button and very powerful. A sync to me button, once I click that and I click on any screen, it brings every student to that screen as long as they're logged in, they'll bring them to that screen. And the cool thing here is that basically this allows me to, if I want to do the lesson one screen at a time with my students for certain parts, I use sync to me and we'll do a screen together. And as I go through it, it's automatically pulling them to the next screen, pulling them to the next screen. And here, however I click on it or move, it's going to pull them to these different screens with me as I go through. So it's kind of neat. Sync to me is a powerful button. And then lastly, our most popular button is the pause button. So with this, as you saw, if I need students' attention, if we need to have a dialogue, or I need to clarify directions, I hit that pause button and accomplish that. Sometimes it's nice to give them a warning, like, hey, students, going to pause you in 3, 2, 1, but this is a great button for technology to be able to pull people together to have that conversation, to clarify direction. So these are our classroom conversation tools in the top left. The other thing I want to mention real quick is the difference of these tabs in the top right. I mentioned the summary one is a good base place to start. Like on the summary one, again, I see my students who are logged in, and then in the middle, I see here basically information of who has done what screens. I also see, for example, 13 of you are on slide 16, one of you is on 18, so people are on different screens here at different times, which is okay, but I get that data. But here, certain screens, if they have a correct, like if there's a correct answer to them, a check mark really says like, yes, they have that correctness. So like on the card sort, there are right answers programmed in there. My dashboard tells me, for example, some of you have a check mark. It means you do have this right at the moment. An X means that you've tried it, but it's not correct yet. There's something wrong. And a dot always means teacher interpretation is needed. So maybe they haven't linked any cards together yet. There's nothing there to really look at yet. But a dot means like if I type in an answer, a dot would just mean yes, there's an answer there, but you're going to have to, as a teacher, look at it. And I can click on any of these. If I want to see students' work, I can click on any of these things and it just pulls up their work for that. I have options like on the top left to zip through other students to see their work. There's lots of ways to use, there's lots of data here to look at, to go through. That's the summary tab. The student tab is where I often teach from. Like when I'm running a lesson, the student tab shows me what students would see. So like I say, okay, students, we should be on this screen right here, and I can demonstrate it with it. We could talk about it, so the student tab is what students would see. It's the student page, and it's a great way to run. And yeah, so it's just that's that. And when I want to see all the student answers at once, that's what a teacher wants to see. So that's when I go to the teacher tab and I can click on any screen, and go to the teacher tab. And this is where for example, I can see your responses here and where depending on the screen, there's different things I can do about overlays or snapshotting answers, or even correctness. For example, on the card sort one, I can hit show correctness, and basically it shows me which students right now, kind of where the cards are that are correct, to go through. So I know it's a lot of information, but as you teach it and go through it, it's just nice to know the teacher tab is where you see teacher things, and answers and student thinking is what we want to see there, which is awesome. So there's a lot here to think about, and I've already highlighted the idea of snapshots a little bit. So, like for example, again, snapshots. When I clicked a few responses, it automatically went to the right over here. Also, there's a neat thing here that beneath snapshots, when I click on student answers, it says send feedback to students. Interesting. So like I could click on a bunch of students here that maybe all had great answers, and I could say like hey you know so, uh, yes, the angles never changed. Um, but maybe I want to think about what happened to the side lengths. And when I do this, what will happen is this feedback will be sent to, like in 6 of you right now will get this as I do this, but the feedback gets sent to students. And, and I'm gonna show you in the summary tab here for a second that basically like the green triangles on my summary tab show me that I've sent feedback to some students. And it's green until they look at it. and then it goes gray. And so, for example, I saw one of you just looked at it, it went gray right there. And so there's on a student screen, what happens, they get a little flag on the top of their screen. And to be honest, I don't use this a lot when I'm teaching in person, but if I want to look at student work after the class and leave some notes, or if they're doing it, an assessment or something for homework, I can, look at it through and leave nice comments here. So again, just touching, there's a lot to touch on here, a lot of things to think about, but hopefully that's helpful to see and think about. So so it's a lot of information. So Scott, let me pause there. Scott, do we have any questions coming in the chat that I could and for you out there, let me pause for a second. A lot of information. I'm gonna slow down. What can I slow down and talk about again or show you again? Feel free to put it in the chat, and I'm just gonna pause for a second and let that sink in. And what we need to do next is next we're gonna look at how to find a lesson, how to assign a lesson, and do that. But so Scott, any questions coming in?
No, not currently.
Not
One
currently. That's
was,
okay.
will people receive a recording of this?
They will. At the end, we're going to have a little survey at the end. And as long as you do the survey, you'll get the recording, with it so you can go back and go a little more slowly and go through. And we still have some other good resources too for you coming up about just continuing learning.
Yes. Another
Yeah.
question, if I have a Desmos Classroom login, does it
Yeah.
work as my Amplify login?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Mhm.
So, and so basically all the data was transferred over. And so even if you had some things saved, before on your Desmos Classroom sign in, it will transfer over to the Amplify Classroom sign in. So
Adam, could you speak, does the platform look a little different when you go to
it
Amplify Classroom to Desmos from Desmos
it
Classroom?
does look a little different, Scott, and that's what we're going to do next. So whoever asked
Okay,
that question is right on target because yes, we haven't even looked at the homepage yet and how to find that. So yes, that is next. So why don't we do that, Scott? Let's jump in there. So
perfect.
so I'm going to leave this dashboard for a second and so this is what the homepage now looks like. And so maybe Scott, you could put this in classroom, in the chat. So classroom.amplify.com. So Scott's going to put that in. You can look at my screen for now, but the new page is so again it's classroom.amplify.com, and so that is actually, I've got it right here, I can put it in as well. So I believe if you go to Desmos Classroom, the old one, it'll take you here. So if you have something bookmarked, this will take you here, but what we're looking at here is the new look of Amplify Classroom, formerly Desmos Classroom. And you'll notice some things look the same, some things look a little different. But so first of all, right here, this homepage is where we can find a lot of free lessons, where we're going to assign lessons to go through, and I'm going to take a look at that with you. But I also want to take a look on the left side. One major difference is that on the left bar, there is a new global navigation tool set on the left side. So basically, on the left side, let's take a quick look at what these are, and then we'll dive into some of them. So for example, on the left side, I'm just going to go top to bottom. And to be here, by the way, you can create a free account. So if you don't have an old Desmos account, when you go to this page for the first time, like in the bottom right, it's really clear. It says like create a new account. You will need a free teacher account to be able to, get full access to things. But once you do that, like on the left side, I can click the home button. The home button is our global homepage. And the homepage, for example, has things that you've recently visited along the top. And once you start teaching Desmos lessons, the homepage has a stream in the middle where you can find all the lessons you have previously taught. So if you want a quick way to be like, you want to find that data, because the data will stay there as long as you want, I mean, really forever. But you can come here and hit view all or see all, and you can quickly find lessons that you were looking for. So this is that home page to some of your recent things. You can also change your icon in the top left. I have this wonderful looking avatar up here. Scott, you like my avatar? I worked really hard at it. What do you think? Is that kind of nice up there?
Oh, that's very nice. Yes.
It had the perfect hairdo. I was really happy. The next one coming down is content. And this is the classrooamplify.com homepage. This is where typically people start. But this is where you can find lessons and assign lessons. I'm going to go back here in a second, but I just want to go down the left side. There is a My Stuff thing. And again, this is a different webinar, but if you end up creating your own custom activities or creating collections of activities using like a folder we call a collection, you can create collections of activities. So like your personalized stuff you find here. There's a PD library that has some helpful links and to learning. There's an admin portal for managing classrooms. If you end up using the Amplify Classroom a lot, you can create classrooms or import Google Classrooms so that you can basically, keep track of your class easier. And so we'll show you how to learn more about that. And then there's also an apps button. The apps button is where some other special things live, polypad manipulatives, which are awesome, different webinar, and even fact fluency cards, which will point to directions in that. And then down below is your profile. And I want to teach you a quick secret. This is a big secret. So under your profile, do click that, and you have account settings and Amplify Labs. I highly encourage you to go to Amplify Labs, and these are newer features that you can turn on. They're new enough that they're not default yet, but if you go again to your profile once you have an account and go to Amplify Labs, you can turn on newer features to get the full power of Desmos, right? Sorry, well, it is Desmos, but also of Amplify Classroom here. So I encourage you to just know about the secret of Amplify Labs. I want to go back to a second is talk about how do you get started? Like how do you begin? And that's where I would go back to this classroom.amplify.com. It's in the content, icon in the left. But let's go ahead and talk about finding a lesson and running a lesson. So if I want to find a lesson, there's many ways I can do it. So for example, can someone in the chat tell me a lesson you're currently teaching? Like something, just give me a topic you're currently teaching. So we'll let you in the chat, anyone who's in the chat there, throw out a few topics you're currently teaching, and we'll see if we can find something to go through. So let's talk about surface area is a good one. Okay, so I'm just going to type in area for a second and hit area, and I'm going to press enter. And so first of all, it says there's over 5,000 activities. Wow. Well, it says I may have a little more access than some of you would because of, but anyway, there's a lot here, but I can filter it. On the right side, I can filter, for example, surface area, for example, gets introduced pretty well. Oh, I have area, not just surface area. Well, let me see. Let me see if I can actually do surface area instead. I think you said surface area. So I'm gonna hit surface area. And this is good, more specific. And let's say I was grade 7. I can hit over here. I can filter if I want to look at a couple different grade levels. It depends on how people, arrange to go through. And I can also down here click something that's by math or amplify. Does it have a Spanish available? And so it has some filters here that I can go through and start looking at some activities here. So for example, here's one called surface area strategies. And and oh, you know what? I realize that I have access to the full curriculum on this account, which I probably should be in a different one. So that's why I have some things here you won't see where it says unreleased and things like that. So my apologies. So sorry, Scott, I should have checked that beforehand. But let me go ahead and grab a lesson here to go through. We're gonna do a math lesson here and take a look at I'm gonna grab one from unit 1. So I can find an activity here. For example, shapes on a plane. And so through the search, when I find an activity here to go through, what we're going to see here is that when you find an activity you want, you might say, how do I know if it's good? Like, how do I know if this is the right thing for me? Well, one thing to do with that is that basically is here's a preview. So before I know like what it is, you can always preview it as a teacher. So first of all, I can hit the preview button right here, or I can just click on a screen. But if I hit preview, it allows me to kind of just look at the lesson and see what a student would do. While I do it as well, if you notice, there's a teacher moves tab on the bottom left of my screen, which can help me know what some teacher goals are for this screen. And I can go through and try it, as a teacher and think about, is this the right lesson for my students? Is this what I was looking for to go through? Some of these lessons are free ones from the bigger curriculum. Some are standalone. But so in the free account, there's lots to still search from. So you can find one. And if you like it, if you're like, yeah, this is the one I wanted to do, then here's what you would do. You go to the assign button. Now, for most of you, if you're first getting started, you want to use the little arrow next to the assign button because under the little arrow, it says either assign to your students or create a single session code. So if you're just getting started, you probably don't have a classroom set up yet. So what you would do is create a single session code. So again, I'm at an activity. I like it. I previewed it. I go to that arrow next to assign and I go to create single session code. And when I do that, it's going to ask me a few questions about, is it okay to students to join without signing in? Do I want this code to be active for 2 days, 2 weeks, or a year? And then when I just answer that, I'll hit create the code. When I do that, you're going to notice that now on this landing page, like on this lesson plan page, a new line occurred that said on September 15th, I made a code that's good through September 29th. And this code is right here. So what do I do with this? Well, a couple things you can do is what we need to do is get students into this activity. And you can do this a minute before class or the night before. So for example, here it says, if I click the 3 dots next to it, this is one way to do this. It says student link. So under student link, it says right here, it says, hey students, go to student.amplify.com/join, and it gives a code. So basically, your students right now could go to this website, type in this 6-digit code, and they are good to go. I could also copy a shortened link and put it in my Google Classroom or wherever, or to go through, and that's fine as well. And as they're joining in, I can come back to this same landing page and I hit the teach button. When I'm ready to run class, I hit the teach button. And again, I can do this before class, anywhere to go through. And with that, basically, here's the lesson. And so as students sign in, their names will appear. I could again pause to screen one or paste to screen one so they can't go on in the activity. And here, based on how I previewed the lesson and reading the teacher moves, I could teach the lesson from here. Again, using my student view tab, I could demonstrate, teacher view tab, we could have discussion, and I could tell them, hey, I want you to try screens 1 and 2, and then we're going to pause and talk about it, and I want you to try screens 3 and 4. Again, sometimes I have students work in pairs on a computer. Sometimes I have them work on their own computer with a shoulder partner. But basically, this is where we teach from to go through. And again, I'd have this displayed on my projector in my classroom, and I would use this to run my class, just like I'm doing with you all right now. Um, so that's how you would assign a lesson to go through and just to find it. So again, back to content. So this is the homepage. Again, I can search for a lesson, find the one I want, preview it, to go through. So Scott, I see some questions have come in. So are there some there's Scott that I could help
Yes.
answer or show something
So,
again?
Adam, could you go to where you were looking at the lesson labs, or excuse me, the labs?
The labs, yes, down
Yeah.
here under
Mhm.
profile.
Yeah. Can you go ahead and click on that?
Yes.
So, and then go to Amplify Labs.
Yes.
And so the question was, if we want to use a companion mode device, such as an
Yes.
iPad or something else like that, what we need to do is to turn on companion mode and projector mode. And that allows us then to be able to work with doing that in front of a classroom using another device. So I need both of those turned on in that sense. So just wanted to make sure in terms of that process, those two labs have to be turned on. Without both of them, we don't get that particular way of annotating something from another device. And
Yeah,
that's
let me expand that just a little bit because I know there's a lot. This is why they're beta because there's a lot of things to learn. They don't want to confuse people. But to answer the question, yeah. So they play together. Companion mode again is very interesting. It allows you to basically run like from your cell phone. If I were to go back to our lesson, if you're looking at my screen, see on the top right, I have this little icon here. It says open companion mode. When I do that, it gives me a QR code. Like, for example, I can use a cell phone or an iPad and scan that, and it gives me it's like a clicker, but better. So now I can move around my room, and it's like a clicker, but better because it allows me to pause, unpause. I can see the teacher moves notes. So it allows you to basically like have an interactive kind of like a clicker device, but more, in companion mode. Definitely a little bit of an intermediate move, but kind of cool. And what projector mode does is projector mode allows me when I'm on a screen, for example, like I'm gonna go back to the student screen for a second, and I'm full screen. You see in the bottom right, there's this down here. If projector mode is on, I get this in the bottom right, I get this icon for project. And what this allows me to do is that when students are looking at this in my classroom, when I hit project, it allows me as a teacher to have a little more power in running the lesson. I don't have to get out of this very much because, for example, from here, I can pause and paste right from projector mode. So I don't need to go back to the teacher dashboard. I can also switch to the answers teacher tab. It lets me go back and forth from the teacher tab to the student tab more easily down here. So I don't have to go back to the teacher dashboard. I can also advance slides easily here, and I have this annotate tool so I can circle. So basically, it puts more of the tools at your fingertips if you have projector mode turned on. So that's a little bit about those there. Scott, did I answer the question, Scott? Did I answer
Yes,
that?
we had a couple other questions. One
Yeah.
is actually some things in terms of as we've switched over from Desmos Classroom to Amplify Classroom, it's been some switch in terms of sometimes some hiccups for students
Yes.
signing in. So, Adam, if you could open up a tab
Yeah.
and just type in student.amplify.com, just want to show about a couple of ways to address this. And so, one of them is if Adam, okay, so here's one. I'm going to address another question that Carolina had asked. She was asking about, is there a way for students to log in straight to Amplify when I assign a lesson? And so one of that is if students are into the classroom that you set up, if Adam signs in as a student and then he goes in and clicks on the to do, that would have the activity that would be assigned for that day. Or past work would be other activities that have been signed previous to be able to go to. And then
Mhm.
apps are in there. So Carolina, that's great question that you asked there. So one way is having students log in directly into Amplify Classroom. If we set up a class, then
Class.
it will actually be set up in terms of a way to look at work that way. So Adam,
Yeah.
I'd like you to log out because I want to show a couple of things.
Sure.
From
Log
the
just
student
log
side.
out
Yes,
of
from
this
the
right
log
here.
out from the student side. Yep,
Yep.
if you could.
Yep.
Okay. And I would just want to show in terms of, so one is it trying to go, I find two things that happen right now in terms of students that may have some difficulty logging into Amplify. So one is sometimes you hit the login to, is entering the code from the teacher for the class and seeing if that works. Another one is if you go to login to Amplify, and I want to show it down at the bottom, if logging into Amplify doesn't work, is having students go down to don't have an account and hit sign up. And sometimes I've found that that refreshes if they hit student and then go in and then choose their login to Amplify through Google or enter in the code. It's just some ways that I myself as a classroom teacher have had some ones that I have to work through, but after the students have logged in, to the class and gotten in, and I've had to do this with some different students, then everything seems to work out just fine. But apologize that that's been a little sticking
Yeah.
point
We
signing
do
in through.
apologize. There's been a big change, obviously, behind the scenes, and overall, the large part things are going smooth. But yes, we're having a few hiccups, and so we do apologize for that. And we're taking feedback and working on that behind the scenes. So appreciate your patience. And but so yes,
And appreciate your questions that you asked
yes,
too. Really, really
yes.
appreciate that.
And I know we're near the, we'll keep taking questions, but I know we have 2 minutes left formally, but I can stay on for a little bit because I know we're kind of at the end. But I want to share a couple quick things. I'm going to go ahead and sync everyone to slide 20 for a second. Is on slide 20, there's some great links to resources. And so I'm going to go ahead and sync us there, but then I'm going to turn off sync so you can move yourself around. On slide 20, there is an Amplify Help Center that is very great. So if you're wondering about how do I know more about classes, setting up classes, I know we talked about it, but how do I do that? If you Google like Amplify Help Center, even just doing that would be great. Amplify Help Center is good. There's an Amplify Classroom Facebook group that's really great for asking questions. And so the Help Center is really amazing to go through. Um, so I also want to give a quick link, Scott. I'm going to put this in the chat just to make it easy. Let me grab. Oh, I'm in my drawing mode from earlier. One second. I need to get out of that. I need to select mode. So in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and put in the link for a quick survey to end with. And this is where if you fill this out, you're guaranteed to get a video of tonight, a recorded link, so you can go back if you wanted to watch a certain part or slow down a bit. You're more than welcome to, to think about that. Um, the code for this session will also stay live for another week or two. So if you want to go back and play with some of these links, if you keep the sign-in code from today, that you can always, I'll make sure it's not unpaused or anything. You can go back and look at it. So while you're doing this, I know it's 7 o'clock. If you're willing to do a quick survey, that'd be great. And then we'll guarantee that we can get you the recorded link. The survey is helpful just to know how we can keep improving. And this is where too, if there's some frustrations you've had, like a question about something you're trying to figure out, this is a good spot as well. And so we also can keep answering a question or two while you're doing that. Uh, so Carolina says, sorry. So no, don't be sorry. We love your questions, Carolina or Carolina. Thank you. When I assign
So
work for students, so Sarah,
yeah,
Carolina, do you have a classroom set up already? Like, do you have the classroom set up for your students? Yes.
okay.
Is it through a Google Classroom or is it through just, making it on your own through just making an Amplify classroom where the students use a code? I'm just curious. Because there's two ways to get through Google Classroom. Okay. So then when you assign a lesson, Carolina, and you assign to your class, just make sure. So you are going to an activity, you're going to assign to your class, you're choosing your class. But when they go to their homepage, student.amplify.com, it's not in there to do. So did I get that right, Carolina? It's not showing up then in there to do. Okay. Scott, have you seen that in your end as far as
Yeah,
um,
so sometimes it seems to pop up for some reason in past work, is what I find sometimes,
oh,
unfortunately. So
I
it's been hit or miss, Carolina, at times, of sort of when I assigned it to a class, but have found that it's been in past work.
I
So
read that too in a counter because other teachers, Carolina said something happened. So do look at that, and that's the first place to do because I remember Scott. Yeah, and this is where I know behind the scenes, this is definitely a hot issue being worked on, is that things were going to past work very quickly. So Sarah, did you find it in past work by chance, Sarah? Is it or have you anonymized on? You're not really Sarah, but um, oh, so Sarah, our mathematician, did find it in past work. So Carolina, for now, look under past work, and I can guarantee you that the our tech team, this is one that has come up recently that they are working on for sure. So we'll answer a question or two, but as we close up here, I just want to say again, thank you for being educators in whatever role you're in and for the work you do with your students. We love the fact that you're a teacher that's here to keep learning and growing. We hope we can continue to help you in that journey. So Amplify Help Center is a great place to get some questions answered. Also, there's other webinars to continue learning about like creating your own custom activities, thinking more about the deeper dive in the dashboard to learn a little more about some of the things that we'll review today. So, Carolina, we don't have a webinar yet for fluency practice, but again, if you go to Amplify Help Center and look up fluency practice, we have some very helpful sites that walk teachers through that, but we don't have a standalone webinar yet for that. But we do have a nice help page to go through. Are the webinars for the math curriculum? Good question. Yeah, so there's not, but let me so like to for the curriculum, if we go to I'm trying to think one way to send you here to think about that for a second. Um, so the curriculum is called Amplified Desmos Math. And so I'm gonna show you a good place to go where you can learn a lot and so if you're looking at the math curriculum, I should say, because there are literacy and other things through. So to learn a little more about the curriculum, I'm going to send you here for a second. Yeah. So if you come here, there's ways to look at digital samples or connect with an expert, some if you wanted to get a little demo or things to go through, because it's kind of exciting. There's a lot happening with the Amplified Desmos math right now. K-8 is fully launched and running this year across many districts in the country. And then we are piloting geometry and algebra 2 and going up and really exciting. So the goal is there's going to be a full K through Algebra 2, full Amplified Desmos math curriculum, and a lot of it is there and is improving and is really exciting. So awesome. So thanks again for those sticking around. Any last questions? Appreciate you sticking around. We're overtime and you're still here. Thank you. Thank you. And so, yeah, so if you're ready to log off, we are done for the evening. Any last questions you can throw in the chat. But again, thank you all for being here and learning and for giving us some feedback as well. Thank you very much. And yeah, whether it's math or literacy or science, we're just glad that you're out there looking to engage students with some of these great tools. And hopefully these free tools can be a great way to learn and get your students in some deep reasoning and thinking. And so we love to see when student brains are moving and thinking, making connections. So thanks, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and sign off here. But awesome. Well, have a great night wherever you are, especially our friend in Melbourne, Australia. Thanks for joining us. And all right, I'm going to sign off. So thanks, everyone. Have a
thank you.
great rest of your week.
Mhm. Take care.